So he said, well, have you got a register of members? Yes, we'll fax it over to you. We were going to send it to you, but we must have lost it in the office or it got lost in the post. All right, OK. They didn't send us over the register of members' interest. They sent over the forms that they asked the members to fill in. And this kind of smacks of someone going, fuck, 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 fuck. Will you get it together? Fuck, 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 fuck. So they faxed it over and we went through it. And there are about 7 people on that register who, you know, look like bits and pieces have not been disclosed as fully as we would have liked. We found out that 3 people on that council hadn't declared that they were directors on ISIS Innovation, which is an Oxford University company that connects with sort of like research and development they do in the colleges and the universities into industry. A little bit of it is medical. You would have thought that got mentioned, but no. One guy, Professor Fitzpatrick, doesn't mention he's a director of the Bupa Foundation. You would have thought there might be a perceived conflict of interest about that. And so we went round there and said, look, there are 7 people on this council whose entries are different from what are in Companies House. How do you account for that? And they said, oh, well, there's no conflict of interest. We're going to bring down someone to talk to you about the fact that there is no conflict of interest. Now, why isn't Bupa considered a conflict of interest here?
I'm not aware that we've ever done business of any kind with Bupa.
It's not about whether you've done business, it's about perceived conflict of interest. How come that isn't a perceived conflict of interest?
I don't know the answer to that.
How can you possibly say that the Bupa Foundation does not have a perception of conflict of interest with the Medical Research Council, right, when there's a non-declaration there? How can you say that?
I can say that it's possible that that is indeed an area for interpretation. Obviously, Professor Fitzpatrick did not consider it to be so.
So you actually don't know
what was going through his mind at the time? No, I don't, because I'm not talking to him.
And you don't know why he thinks it's not a conflict?
No, because I haven't had that discussion with him.
The chairman is a guy called Sir Anthony Cleaver. He's the guy who should be in charge of all of this. He's the guy who should be making sure that everyone, and there he is. Sir Anthony hadn't included the fact that he was also a director of Lockheed Martin on his entry, and he'd forgotten to mention that he was also a director of Bermuda Asset Management Limited, forgot to mention that. And, you know, he really should have included his own stuff, he should have included the committee stuff, especially because he's also on the committee for Standards in Public Life. 1. Do you know what Bell Street Management Company is?
No.
2. Do you know what Argentine Research is?
No. I have no...
Do you know what Servital Limited is?
No, because I've had no advance warning of any of these names. And I have no reason to think that any of those names necessarily should present us with a problem.
Do you know where the Bermuda Asset Management Limited property, which is the property company, do you know where that property is?
I can't answer that.
No. Do you know what IX Europe PLC is?
No. No, you're listing to me a number of things that you have found through a search in Companies House, and you're mentioning to me companies that I've never heard of before. Of course I say to you, I don't...
You were brought out to tell us how, you know, that there was no conflict of interest. That's what we were told that you were going to do. You haven't been able to you haven't been able to tell us half the questions of what there is. With all due respect, this is a bit pointless.
I call the committee to order and welcome Mark Thomas, our witness this morning. We're very delighted to have you along. My note here describes you as a comedian and activist, an uncoverer of things that people don't want to have uncovered, really. And
on a good day, yes.
On a good day, and we're sure it's a good day. And you've been very kind enough to give us some written material on some of the work that you've been doing.
This is a report that we handed in to the Select Committee. We go up to the Select Committee, and I'm just going, I'm talking to the team going, they're bastards in there, they're all MPs. And they're all going, no, play it calm, Mark. Don't lose it. Don't start going, you fuckers, and all of that. Just be calm, play the game, get the information out, because you've got parliamentary privilege. You can say what you like, so keep the information being said. Because I can say whatever I like in there, and no one can sue me. This is about public accountability. It's about transparency. It's about perceived conflicts of interest. And it's also about these people, with all due respect to yourselves, they actually can shape government policy. People on these public bodies can steer and determine what is government policy, which actually is often more power than many backbench MPs will have. And yet, who are they accountable to? Where is the transparency? Where is the scrutiny on this? It's simply not here. And that's how we approached the report that we've given you. That's one of the examples that we found there. I think it illustrates the fact that when it comes to accountability and transparency, public bodies are actually rotten to the core on this issue.
Before I hand over, could I just, I forgot to say one thing to you when I asked who the we was, which is that I have to ask you if you're a current affairs programme. The reason for asking that is that if you say yes, then evidently the tape of these proceedings can be used by the White
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We are. He said, right, well, thank you very much. He starts sort of, they say, have you got anything to say? So I say, you'll see from the report, and start talking through some of the stuff and explain the methodology and say to them, we want to hand you a second report and all this kind of stuff. And so I'm sitting there in my suit and I'm sort of giving it, you know, this. And they start asking questions, and one of them goes, Mr. Thomas, thank you for turning up. I hope you haven't brought an ice sculpture with you. No, bless. And do you know what? Some of them were quite nice. Seriously, some of them I quite liked. And they would sort of ask me questions, and sort of, at one point they say, you don't think very much of politicians, do you? I say, not really. They say, what would you like to elaborate on what you think about politicians? I said, well, on a good day, you know, you're all right. I said, well, let me read you what you wrote in the New Statesman.
When it comes to sucking up to royalty, no one does it quite so eagerly as MPs, whose dribbling, corgi-like eulogies make the Daily Mail look calm by comparison. It gets better than this, though.
I thought I was being a bit soft.
No, well, you're just working yourself up at this point. Had the Queen's dead mother made a Lazarus-like recovery, risen from the dead, and stood in the way of MPs charging back to Parliament, they would have knocked her to the ground and trampled her back to death in their rush to express the nation's gratitude for her life. And then you talk about the MP's trail of slime inch their way forward to knighthoods. Now, this doesn't suggest that we've got much of a role in the scheme of things, have we?
Well, I don't want to be personally offensive to you. I think that, you know, the people that I work with, people that I regard as my peers, and these are people who are intelligent, they care passionately about a whole range of social issues. They are incredibly knowledgeable. They'll go out of their way to find out information. They'll set up alternative means of distributing information. They believe so much in human rights and, you know, the rights of people within the environment that they are actually prepared to be arrested often for these issues. So there's a real belief as well as a knowledge. The people that I regard as my peers, they really, this is no offence, but they don't trust you. They don't want anything to do with you. They don't want anything to do with government. And if you extend the powers of a government body to investigate itself, as far as they're concerned, you'll merely perpetuate that exclusion from the parliamentary democratic process. And you'll perpetuate that feeling that actually they're not involved in this. It doesn't matter what happens here. It doesn't touch their lives in any real, tangible way. We kind of had a nice little debate, because we put forward these recommendations. No one should be on more than one committee. Everyone should get paid for being on a committee. Half the committee should be made up of members of the public who are drawn by lot. They're saying, but do you think that members of the public... Yeah, of course they could handle, you know, arguments. People sit on a jury, don't they? People sum up, you know, very complex, you know, arguments. They look through forensic evidence. They go through witness statements. They listen to the whole thing. They come to a conclusion which actually someone's balance of their life and their future depends on it. Do you think they could sit on a committee about wine? I think so. What was lovely, this one little Tory bloke in the corner, who I just thought, no, mate, you're not with me at all, are you? And it's called Sir Sidney.
I'm very grateful, speaking for myself, for your paper. I don't disagree I don't think, in any of your 11 recommendations. And I think all the case studies you've given us will make it easier to focus on particular points. So I'm personally very